Okay, our mission. Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Pam. Oh my gosh, we're so excited to listen and hear Pam. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for reading that, Irene. Thank you, Pam, for being here. And I absolutely love the bio that Pam sent me. I added just a little bit because she doesn't talk at all about her incredible achievements that we all know about. But Pam Grout is a hopeless romantic who still believes the world is a beautiful place, that people are noble, and that anything is possible. For a living, and she always wonders why people think that's such an important question, she writes books and articles for such magazines as People, Cooking Light, and Travel and Leisure. She also enjoys writing bedtime stories for her daughter, but that's more about making a life than a living. She's keenly aware there's a huge difference. In making a life, she has traveled to all of the world's continents, learned 59 ways to make a fort out of sofa cushions, perfected a mean tennis forehand, and volunteered at a women's prison and free health clinic. Now, I'm adding this. Pam is also a New York Times bestselling author and has written 16 books, including E Squared and E Cubed, as well as 2 screenplays, a live soap opera, a TV series, and many magazine articles. Pam is also the shining light mom of Tasman, who is pictured on the event invitation that you all saw. She lives in Lawrence, Kansas. Check out her sometimes updated website at www.pamgrout.com. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Pam Grout.
Hello, everybody. I'm really grateful to be here with you. I feel like more than anything, I want this to sort of be a celebration of the divine connection that we all share with our children. And I want anybody to feel free to ask any question they want. I have been asked to speak a lot ever since, I had these books that became bestsellers, but I'm actually most comfortable in just answering questions. But I'll tell you a little bit about me. I had just finished a program in Connecticut, and a friend of mine, this is about 28 years ago, was going to a psychic that was coming in from California. I had just done this breathing program in Connecticut. So she said, you should come with me. You should come meet the psychic. And I never wanted to turn down an adventure. So I said, sure, I'll go. So anyway, I showed up at the psychic, and she goes around the room and tells everybody what their next, path in life was going to be. And she looked at me and she goes, I don't know if you're going to like this. Again, I'm a 36-year-old single woman. Maybe I was 37 at the time. But anyway, she said, your next path in life is going to be motherhood. So we walked out of that event and I said to my friend, I go, that psychic is full of baloney. I'm single. I'm a travel writer. What's she talking about? But sure enough, I was pregnant. Within the next 3 or 4 weeks, I found out that indeed I was pregnant. And I had Taz, was always a single parent. It was pretty much Taz and me. In fact, this program that I just finished in Connecticut, everyone made an intention, like, what do you want? What was your intention? And my intention had been to find my soulmate. I was a single woman. And I didn't know that I was wanting to find a soulmate that was going to be my daughter. I had no idea. I was thinking in terms of a male partner. But as it turns out, Taz is my soulmate, or was my soulmate. And, I ended up having her, raised her on my own. And she traveled with me. I mean, she really was just this amazing person. I felt so lucky. I didn't, necessarily know I was going to become a parent, but it ended up being the best thing, the most wonderful experience of my life. But then 2 years ago in October, and it was 2018, my father had died that year, my mother had died that year, and Taz and I had just come back from my mother's funeral, and her birthday is October 8th. And so I'd been busy making funeral arrangements for my mom. So we hadn't, dutifully celebrated. So on the day after we came back from the funeral, we were texting, we're going to go see Star is Born. This is our thing. Let's go see Star is Born and let's go to breakfast. And so we're texting back and forth. And I noticed that she hadn't returned a text. She texted me 3 or 4 times. And I thought, oh, it's been a while. So I called her phone and I said, hey, let's go to breakfast before we, go to the movie. And next thing I know, there is a Lawrence, Kansas cop at my door saying that my daughter was at Lawrence Memorial Hospital and that they were life flighting her to Kansas City. She had a brain aneurysm, and literally, they didn't actually pronounce her dead until the next day, but she passed, literally just like that. We're in the middle of texting. So it was an incredible shock for me. I mean, I just couldn't even really believe it. I mean, so many of my books are about gratitude and being joyful, and I feel like I live such a blessed life. And it was just like, wow, how could this happen? But I think for me, one of the things I have written a lot about is changing paradigms. And it's a lot about paradigms of, the world, there's scarcity in the world, and that, we should always be, life sucks and then you die. I mean, that's kind of a paradigm that a lot of people buy into. So my whole thing was changing these paradigms. And so when I reflect back about why this might have happened, one of the paradigms I'm now out to shatter or to change is this idea that we can no longer be in touch with our loved ones. And that's why I love helping parents heal so much. In fact, long before these guys asked me to speak, I signed up on the Facebook group, and I have really appreciated the help that I've gotten from helping parents heal. I think it's a wonderful organization. And I particularly do like it because the whole focus is on this enduring connection. And I think that's just really important. And while I have certainly gone to the psychics like everybody else, and I've gotten messages, I have found that Taz has really been able to send messages, directly to me. And I'll share a little bit about one of the things. Again, because it was just the two of us, we had a lot of crazy rituals. One of them was whoever would say hedgehog to the other one on the first of the month was guaranteed a lucky month. We started this maybe when she was in grade school or junior high. It's just kind of a silly thing. So when she went off to college, of course, college students stay up, really late. So at 12:01 on the first of every month, that's when we would do the hedgehog. She'd do hedgehog. And of course, she'd always win the contest. And then she went off to Europe after she graduated. And again, in Europe, she's 7 hours ahead of me. So she always would win the hedgehog competition. But it's just a funny thing. So on May 1st, which was it might have been April 1st, but, a few months after she passed, I got a hedgehog. And since that time, every single first of the month, I mean, without fail, Taz sends me a hedgehog. And I have no doubt that she probably sent me a hedgehog those other months as well. But again, I was in so much grief and I really couldn't see beyond my nose to even notice the hedgehogs. But just to give you an example of some of the hedgehogs she sent me, I was doing an interview kind of like this one day on May 1st of this year. And the interviewer says, "You'll never believe what's in my backyard." I said, "What?" She lives in Maine. She's like, "There's a hedgehog in her backyard." So, just out of the blue, this hedgehog shows up. Sometimes I'll get the hedgehog, with the exclamation point from her old phone. So whoever has her phone number, I have no idea. Or one time I was going in to pick up a birthday present for my friend's grandbaby who was turning 1. And I walk into the toy store and I say, "Hey, what's your latest, new cool toy for 1-year-olds?" And she, takes me right over, "Here's the bestseller." And it was this stacking hedgehog toy. So every single first of the month, I get a hedgehog from Taz, which lets me know that indeed she is still here for me. We have a thing about 222. In fact, I started a foundation in her honor called the 222 Foundation, and we give a grant every year on February 22nd. This coming February 22nd will be the third time because, the first time she had passed in October. So we had to, do it fairly quickly. But anyway, so I also have a lot of my readers send me pictures of 222. So I feel like I'm always getting these 222 signs, and I feel like I'm, wanting to stay in communication with Taz. And I think one of the big tasks for me is, it's so apparent. It was apparent for me from the beginning that Taz was no longer that little baby in the bassinet. She was no longer the kindergartner, going off to the first day of school with her little flower dress and her pink backpack. She was no longer she and I standing at Machu Picchu when she was 21. She was evolving each year. She was no longer that person. And now, of course, she's no longer the person in the body, but she's still very much alive, very much alive in my heart and in my soul, and in very many other ways. And I really believe that if we open our mind and let go of this belief, that all of us can communicate with our kids and stay in touch with them always, constantly, and that they're really here. And I mean, Elizabeth and I were just telling me this amazing story about some help from the other side they got, with the conference that they had. So, in some ways, we've got these wonderful allies on the other side. And so, as tough as it can be, it's also just an opportunity for a whole new paradigm. And so I think a lot of us on some level made that agreement that that's what we were going to do. So anyway, maybe that's partly why we're here. And so I don't know. I mean, as far as as I said, my sometimes updated website, I actually have 20 books out. My 20th book came out in this year in 20. And in the beginning of it's the Course in Miracles experiment. And I've got a little poster that Taz had made for me, because one of my catchphrases is this AA 2.0 program. And I'd always get up in the morning and go, something amazingly awesome is going to happen to me today. So Taz and I, when I visited her in Barcelona, we had gone through the alphabet, something amazingly awesome, something bodaciously brilliant, something, on and on and on. And so Taz had made this little poster for me and made me this beautiful calendar. This is, Christmas of 2017, before she passed in 2018. And so I was able to put her poster, in the front cover and the back cover, actually, of this book that I just had that came out, because I was in the middle of writing it when this happened to me. And I think being able to stay with the book was helpful to me, because it gave me something to do. And one of the tenets of Course in Miracles, which this book is about, the workbook in Course in Miracles, is that there is no death. There is no death. And so talk about an opportunity to practice the principles that I've been teaching and believing. It's like, wow. I didn't know that I wanted this particular lesson or this particular, but anyway, that's what's ended up happening to me. And it's been really hard at times, as you all know. I mean, that's one thing we all know what it's like. But I hope, that we also can discover, this other lifeline that we have to them. And also, I love to also think about infinity and how big, how many, galaxies are out there, and how we're really just such a small piece of the puzzle. And so and so this time that we have on Earth, in these flesh suits is pretty limited, really. And then we'll have infinity, eternity, to be with our kids. And so that gives me a lot of comfort too, knowing that this life here is just pretty small compared to the whole bigger thing. And I have no idea what's going on. I have nothing. I say one of my mentors is Hans Schultz from that TV show Hogan's Hero. He was famous for saying, "I know nothing," in his clipped German accent. And I feel like that's really what I say. I know nothing. And I think the more I'm willing to not know, the more tasks can come to me, the more bigger messages can come to me, the more angels can work with me. So I feel it's really an important place to give up all your paradigms and all your beliefs. And it's only like one of the things, E Squared is the book that became a huge bestseller. It's translated into 40 languages. And in there, I talk a lot about, quantum physics. And this is kind of a comforting thing for parents too, is that once you've interacted with any two things have ever interacted, they're connected forever, never, never, no matter what, it never ends. And that's kind of a comforting thing that, we're still connected with our children from a quantum physics standpoint. I mean, among many other standpoints. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, in this book, when I talk about quantum physics, I talk about how we collapse the wave. And what that means is there's infinite number of possibilities out there in the universe. I mean, they're infinite. We can't even get our minds around them. And then what happens is we start taking on these belief systems. We start taking on these judgments, these beliefs about the way the world is. We collapse the wave, meaning that's all we can see. We literally are in a feedback loop. So we're only seeing what we believe to be true. So if we can extend our beliefs and open our beliefs, which is what I believe Helping Parents Heal does, we can discover this amazing continuing relationship with our children. So anyway, so I don't know if anybody has any questions. I don't know what else you want to know. I mean, again, I'm one of you, and I know how, I mean, I don't know what anybody's going through personally at this particular moment. I mean, I know it's a roller coaster ride. There's days that are so hard. There's days that I have so many signs that I feel such joy and connection. So, I'm all over the place like everybody. But anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
We do have questions. And first of all, I just want to say, Darcy's saying single parents always have an amazingly close soulmate connection with our children. So she's acknowledging that. And I think that you're speaking to that. That's just wonderful. I just love all of these alphabet things that you were doing with Tess, and everything that you've said so far is so much fun to listen to. Dixie is asking if you can speak to the deep grief in the early stages. I'm not sure, because of the fact that you're so familiar with the Course in Miracles, and because of the fact that you did write E Squared. Was it something that was hard in the beginning, or were you connected immediately with Taz and just realized that that love never dies? I mean, I would love to hear you speak to that. I know you're working on that book.
Yeah, I was aware of that theoretically, and I've been aware of that theoretically forever. In fact, that's what E Squared was about, is taking things from a theoretical belief to let's put it in practice. And so what E Squared is literally scientific experiments proving that these principles are true. So I give people set up 48 hours. So theoretically, I knew that Taz was still here, that, death isn't the end. I mean, so I knew that. In fact, interestingly enough, I had written a lot about this kind of thing way before Taz passed. It's, as we step back and look at our life, we realize all these connections and all these things that we didn't recognize at the time. But now when I look back, I think, why was I always interested in these kind of books? Like, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. I mean, I've read so many things. Anita Morjani's a friend of mine. I mean, I've just always been interested in this connection that we have, even though both my parents were still living. I had no reason to think Taz was going anywhere, but so it's just interesting that I was always fascinated with that. So I guess the answer to that question is just theoretically, I knew that from the very first moment, but the grief was really truly overwhelming, and it was particularly hard because, again, my whole shtick platform, if you want to say, it's all about gratitude and being joyful. And it's like, how can I be grateful and joyful for this? I mean, one thing I am truly grateful for, again, I was 36, 37 when I got pregnant. And every year on my birthday, from that point on, I would say to myself, man, I am so lucky that I got to be a parent, because, I wasn't heading down that path really. And so I can really appreciate this great gift that I was given, to be a mom, to be Taz's mom. And, when I look back to it, Taz, she was always like the wisest person in the room. She was always, we used to kind of joke that she was from another planet. She's like, she just knew things that, that everybody else didn't know. I mean, she always had this special kind of thing. I mean, like, she was the smart one. I was, she was like a real gift to me. I mean, I feel like she came to me as a total, complete gift. And that, on some level, we have a mission together. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm learning, and I'm still new in the process. I found that since she's passed, I've slowed down a lot. I was always real energetic and, traveling a lot, going all over the place, and, taking her with me as much as I could. But I mean, I was just really busy in projects. And like I said, I did finish that book, but since that happened, I've really slowed down. I don't have this need to, just get the next thing done, so I'm really listening. I'm really honoring, the space, and really, trying to meditate and connect with that as much as possible, and really seeking guidance on what to do. Like I said, this card deck that I'm working on now, I mean, that's the last thing I would have thought I wanted to do, but that's what was presented to me to do. So I'm really in service to listening and serving the bigger purpose, as many of us are here, to really know that we can facilitate love and joy and healing for everyone, and that we are all connected. We'll be connected forever. Forever. I mean, nobody can take away our connection. And I believe we're connected to every human on the planet. I mean, I really believe we're all one. It doesn't always look that way. Sometimes I say the biggest secret in the world is that we all really love each other. It doesn't always look that way. That's the biggest secret that really is true.
I love that. And I was wondering, we have a question on here about a good book to read to be able to connect with our children in spirit. I wonder if there are any books that you have read with all of the knowledge that you already have that have really helped you along this journey.
Wow. Well, before Tess even passed, I had read Eben Alexander's work. Again, Anita was my friend, so I've, read all of her stuff. Anita Morjani. The Afterlife of Billy's Fingers is a good one. But after Tess passed away, I went to the library. I'm a big library fan, which is kind of funny since I make a living selling books. But anyway, and I checked out every book by any parent, that had written a book about their journey. So I suppose I started reading them in a whole different way. Like before, if I would read something like that, I was interested in it, again, because of that connection, to the other side. But I just started scouring everything and reading everything. And I'm trying to think which books have been the most helpful. Is his name Tom Zuba? I remember his was one of the first books I read, and that was really helpful. And wow, his story, wow, that is just a real heart tugger, that one for sure. Oh boy, nothing springing to mind. I could put together a little list because I have read.
Well, that would be wonderful. But also,
books, yeah.
Anita Morjani, Dr. Eben Alexander, as well as Tom Zuba have are all on our book list. Hopefully Anita Morjani is going to be speaking to us. The other two have, she's promised to. So I totally believe that those are wonderful books. But one of the things that I hear you say, and that so many of our presenters say as well, is that you read every book that you could find. And I think that's so wonderful. It is hard to read, though, I think, for some people when they're just starting on this path. And so sometimes it's easier just to watch podcasts or TED Talks. And I know you've done a TED Talk. I know that there are TED Talks available by these people as well. And so those are things that probably would be very helpful for parents to do as well. So somebody's saying David Kessler, also the 6th stage of grief, as well as the new one that he just came out with. How is it that you connected with Suzanne Giesemann? We would love to hear about that.
Yeah, a friend of mine who he had a heart aneurysm, and so when he found out about Taz's brain aneurysm, he contacted me, and he had recently had a really interesting experience with his father who had passed, 10 years before. And he had a lot of unresolved anger and a lot of issues with his dad. And little by little, as he started studying, this idea that we could be connected, he, began to forgive his father, and he connected with him in a really, really very meaningful way. In fact, he did a blog post or a guest post on my site. But he had contacted me again. He's from Kansas originally. He lives in Virginia now. But he said, "Hey, I can get you a reading with Suzanne Giesemann." And I didn't know who she was. I'd done a reading. Well, it's funny because right with the time Taz had passed, a medium from New York had just sent me your book and asked me to endorse it. So I had, maybe done an endorsement, but I hadn't really read the book. And then, after Tess died, I'm like, oh my gosh, her name's Deborah Hanlon. And so she's got a good book. Anyway, so she's somebody I've been on her podcast. And so I said, hey, could you do a reading for me? I mean, this is like right after it happened. So I'd already done one with her. But then Keith, my friend, had said, hey, I can get you a reading with Suzanne. I'm like, yeah, she's kind of hard to get into. So I'm like, yes, please. So anyway, we did a reading. And she didn't even know. I mean, she had read my books, but I don't think she knew that, you know what I mean? I don't think she put two and two together. And then afterwards we talked and she's like, oh my gosh, you're that Pam Grout. So she was kind of surprised. But anyway, so then we've sort of stayed in touch a little bit. And then she had recently asked me to be on her Unity radio show. So I think I did that over the summer. I think that's how Irene maybe had heard that or something. So that's kind of how you guys ended up contacting me, even though I knew about you before you guys ever contacted me. So,
well, I have people asking about Taz. I think people want to hear more about her. One question that Darcy's asked is how old was Taz? She is now, obviously, I believe about 22. Was she 20 when she passed? Is that correct?
It was 1 week after her 25th birthday.
Oh, 25th birthday.
Right. So she had graduated from college. She got a degree at Grinnell College, the liberal arts college in Spanish and anthropology. That's why she had gone to Barcelona, to work over there. So she'd been out of college for 2 years and had moved back. She'd been in Europe for about a year and then she moved back and was going to go to Beijing to teach and then ended up staying in Lawrence, which is where I lived for that last year of her life. And so I'm so grateful for that because I mean, she could have maybe been in Beijing and had her aneurysm over there, which I can't even imagine how, traumatic that would be. So she was right here in town when that happened. And also we had the gift of, spending so much time together, as a mother-daughter relationship, it's a little bit different. And I mean, we were still mother-daughter, but, she was older then. She was 24 that year. She was 24, turning 25. And so we did a lot of things together. We had a lot of real great adventures. So I'm really grateful that she ended up being in this town in the last year of her life.
That's wonderful. And so had she been learning Chinese to go over to Shanghai or was she?
She knew Arabic, she knew Spanish, and she was learning Chinese. Yeah, she had filled out all the paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork in order to go over there. And she had done all the, I don't know, criminal background checks and all the things that they required for her to do. I mean, it jumped through all the hoops. And there was a lot of, medical things and all kinds of things. And she had gotten, gotten it all approved. And then at the last minute, she said, no, I think I'm going to go ahead and stay here. And she ended up getting a job in town with the Spanish speaking families of big brothers, big sisters. So she worked as what she called it a match specialist. So that's what she was doing at the time that she passed. And she had her own apartment. She did live here in Lawrence. So again, we got to do we had gone to Stockholm together. And so they have a tradition there called fika. And it's where you have a coffee and a pastry. And so she and I'd always call each other, hey, let's go fika. So we had a lot of fikas before that last year of her life where we'd get together and, just talk over coffee and a scone or something. So, there were a lot of great blessings that I was able to spend time with her that last year of her life. Never knowing it was the last year of her life, it's really weird. But it's funny because, again, my mom had passed. And so we had just driven back from my mom's. And the last time I saw her in person, we had dinner here and then she was going out with her friends. We got back about 4 or 5, something like that. And then, we had dinner here and she was going with her friends to go visit another friend who just got a new apartment. And so because we'd just been to mom's funeral, and you know how it is when you're at a funeral, you're just, wow, really aware that, life's short. So we both hugged each other so big and we said, well, you just never know. But I mean, never, ever, ever suspecting that we really did just never know. I mean, and that was the last time I was actually in her physical presence. I mean, other than her presence at the hospital where she was, had the aneurysm and was unconscious and, basically brain dead. So anyway, yeah.
Well, okay. So along the same lines, Candy is asking, how have you dealt with the loss of Taz's physical presence? Do you believe we all have a predetermined exit date? And do you believe in a soul plan? Is that something that you thought was going to happen?
Oh, wow. See, I believe we all make agreements of some kind. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but because I also believe that we have a say in, what happens to us, that we play a part in, I always say that we animate into our life whatever we put our attention upon. So if we put our attention upon, what we have to be grateful for, then we're going to get more of that. So I would have never, ever willingly chosen this path if I did, but on some bigger level, again, the world's so much bigger than me. What's possible, so much bigger than me. So on some level, I have to say that, yeah, I probably did agree to do this, and Taz agreed to do this too. I find that I still don't, I'm not totally cool with that yet. I'm still kind of working on that idea. But theoretically, certainly I do believe that. I'm not, yeah. Did this have to happen just this way? I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
Again, Hans Schultz, I know nothing.
second, this is a follow-up question. I know you've talked about hedgehogs. I would love to know what other signs she's sending you, because I'm sure that because you guys are so connected, you're recognizing them and acknowledging them.
Well, here's one example. I was feeling kind of blue one day, and I was down at a coffee shop. And this coffee shop also has a bookstore, and they have a big baby grand piano. And people can go there and play if they want to. So I'm sitting there, kind of crying in my coffee or whatever. And I live in a university town, so some college girl comes in, sits at that piano, and plays one of Taz's contest songs. I mean, she was a really good pianist, so she, had played in a lot of those contests, and it's like, wow, that was a really cool sign. It was just right when I needed it. Another thing, she had helped me with this project where she made these little baby Einsteins. Because again, I have one of my experiences, the Albie Einstein principle, again, quantum physics and energy, and it's a lot bigger than what we know. And so one day I was coming back, and on the back of this truck was this big giant picture of Albert Einstein, that famous one of him where he's sticking his tongue out. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's a black and white picture, and he's sticking his tongue out looking goofy. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's just so perfect, because Taz and I had the thing about Albert Einstein. So I suppose the biggest one is the 222, with the foundation I started, and with literally readers are constantly sending me. I have a, pretty good, I do a blog. And so a lot of people come to my site, and, people know about my journey, what happened with Taz and everything. So people sometimes will just, they'll say, oh, like here's what the other day somebody said, she did not have her phone set, no alarm was on, but her phone started playing music at 2:22. And she just said, hi, Taz. I feel like in a way, Taz is like communicating with so many people out there kind of through me, so it's really pretty amazing. A lot of people tell me they feel this connection with Taz. So, and I feel like, all of our kids, they're doing something exciting. I don't know quite what they're up to, but I do believe, our kids are working together, and I feel like our planet's kind of making a big transformation, or we're kind of in the process with all this stuff going on. And I feel like the people on the other side are helping us with that, because maybe it's limited. Again, we can only see what we can see in this material plane, and they've got a bigger viewpoint. So, like, for example, her birth father, who really wasn't involved in her life, but he was from New Zealand. And not soon after Taz passed is when they had that the mosque shooting in New Zealand. And her father, her birth father, had a really clear vision right after that had happened, a dream where Taz, who did speak Arabic, was welcoming all those people to heaven somehow, that she, had to be there, because it was a few months, I think, after she passed. So I don't know, there's just so many weird stories out there. And again, I love that. I've got
You know what? I just have to say this to you very quickly. I have been told by so many people that Morgan needed to cross over when he did because of what happened in Haiti. And it happened right after. And he speaks French. And a lot of mediums have told me that they saw him working with all of these people who were crossing over. So I totally believe that. That's absolutely beautiful. It gave me goosebumps. I have other questions that I want to ask you too. For instance, do you have dream visits from Taz? Is that something that you've experienced?
In the beginning, I had several. that were very poignant and that I really, in fact, one of the first ones, and I know it had to be something than what it was, but it was right after she passed, and her father, who, like I said, is from New Zealand, and in the dream, she was, going to move to New Zealand. I mean, that's in the dream. And I was like so upset, like, no, how can you go to New Zealand? And this is in the dream. I'm just like, you can't go to New Zealand. You can't go to New Zealand. I want you here. And she, comes and hugs me. Everybody, she goes, well, Mom, you can come too. And I felt that was kind of, that choice. Do I want to stick around? I mean, I really thought maybe after the first year, that thing they say about spouses, one goes and the next one will go within a year. I really sort of wondered if I would go too, because there was a part of me that wanted to, I want to be with Tess. So I kind of thought that might happen. And now, I just crossed the 2-year mark. So obviously I still have a purpose here, or I would not be here. But I did kind of think that in the beginning. So that was a pretty poignant dream. Like she really was saying, oh, you can come too. And then another one, not too long after that, where we were together in some place that wasn't home, but we were with some group of people, and there were speakers and various things. And Taz and she was kind of doing her thing, and I was doing my thing, and I kept trying to connect with her, and she was always, talking to somebody else or whatever. And finally, I said to her, it's like these misconnections, like we'd miss the bus, we'd miss things in the dream. And so finally, I said to her, Taz, I need to talk to you. And this is in the dream. And she's like, oh, sure, what? And I said, I'm not going to be here very long. I really need to let you know that I'll be gone by the end of the year. And I kind of wondered, again, if that was her, I was reflecting into her, because it was towards the end of the year when this all happened. So that seemed to be real significant as well. And now I'll have a dream. Like the other night, I had a dream where I was buying us both cars, but it wasn't like she was dead in the dream. It's like, she wasn't even that significant, other than I just knew I was buying her a car and me a car. And in fact, if anybody knows dream interpretation, tell me what that means. I don't know.
Unfortunately, I don't. But Candy is saying she's the most perfect example of a shining light. Absolutely brilliant, so uplifting. She shows me that it is okay to be joyful, even now, which I agree 100% with you, Candy. It is so important for all of us to realize that we are supposed to be happy, because our kids love for us to be happy, and they're still right here. They are not anyplace else but right here with us. And especially during these meetings, they all join hands and watch us and just love to see it when we smile. So anyway, I also wanted to ask you a question that Doris is asking, and it's kind of fascinating. Have you ever done a past life regression?
I think I had done one maybe long before I even became a parent. I don't remember anything from it. I heard some spiritual teacher say one time that, it's interesting, to find out what your past lives were, but if they were more important, you'd be there now, but you're here. So, let's focus more on this right here. So that kind of made an impression on me. So I don't even remember that much what they said, but I feel very strongly, like one of the mediums that I talked to did say that Taz and I had been together in many lives. And I do definitely believe that. Again, I try to focus more on this moment and to try to, what's mine to do right now. Like one of the questions I'll ask when I get up in the morning, I say, what would a being of light do today? What would a being of light? And if I am a being of light, which is what I believe, and I believe all of us are, what would a being of light do? And with Taz's help, I mean, she is like full-time light now. I mean, she's whatever, dancing in the cosmos, whatever it is, she can, I mean, she was always very creative and an artist. So, she can paint with stars and paint with, the colors of the sky, whatever. So anyway, so what would a being of light do today? So what is mine to do? And I feel like, you two, Elizabeth and I, you guys have gotten such this great mission. And I feel like what you're doing, you guys are being beings of light to so many people and offering the light, bringing the light. That's so important that we can all do that for each other. So thank you guys so much for doing that. I think you're your work is so important. I mean, you certainly have, saved my life many times when I could, get on there and get some morsel of inspiration, something to keep me going. We all kind of need that from time to time. As Ron
Well,
Boss said, we're all just walking each other home. So
that's a huge, huge compliment coming from you. But I
yeah.
want to say that it has nothing to do with me and me. I think that Irene feels the same way. It's our kids. They are doing everything for us. They're leading the way. And I feel that the communication that we have with them is going to eventually save the world. But I have this observation that I just want, actually, I want to have everyone understand about this gorgeous picture behind you. Could you tell the story of that picture?
Yeah, so many people have gifted me with all kinds of things since Taz's passing. I think every mom can relate to that. It's like, oh, what would it be like to lose each? I mean, we don't even want to think about that. But anyway, this painting behind me, it's really huge. It's probably like, I don't know, 6 foot by 8 foot. I mean, it's really big. But her professor at Grinnell College, where she graduated, it was her Spanish professor, felt called to paint this picture and send it to me. And it came in this big wooden box. And, or it was like, I've never had a piece of art this big or this impressive that came in the mail. I felt like, I should be living in a mansion or something with a picture like this. But anyway, she painted it, felt inspired to do that and sent it to me. And it's just a very colorful, beautiful picture. I don't know if you can see the top part of it. Let's see. I don't know how to hold my computer, but there's sort of a picture of a kind of a rabbit type angel looking thing. It's pretty abstract painting, but it's beautiful. It's like going, swirling energy. So anyway, it's just a really beautiful gift that she gave to me.
And it
Yeah.
is, yes. And so Carla's saying, absolutely beautiful gift from the heart. It's just amazing what our kids bring into our lives after they've passed. And I just think that this is one of those examples of things that are just so amazing. Could you just tell about the reason that you're going to be doing these cards and what happened with this other wonderful woman in Germany?
Well, this is still like remarkable to me, but again, after Tess passed, I mean, and then we were in the hospital because she had checked the organ donation box at the hospital. So we were with her until, they had to do all the stuff that they do on that kind of a thing. So I sat there for a week, but then when I came back home, I have a pretty available communication with my readers. I just have this free blog post that I do. And I hadn't posted anything for a while. I mean, I'm in the hospital. And I was, posting almost every day with the Course of Miracles, kind of the beginning of the year. But anyway, so I did a post about what had happened to me and just, how, how, I just couldn't believe it. But anyway, I explained what had happened and where I'd been. And so a woman from Hamburg, Germany, she is an artist. She had read my book, Art and Soul Reloaded, and she had loved that book. And she said, your daughter was a beautiful spirit. She was as beautiful as a flower, she said, and I'm going to paint you a flower every week for a year. And she also blows glass, and she goes, and I'm going to blow a little glass butterfly, a different one each week to go with the flower. And I mean, I was so touched because when she sent that, she sent me the first glass butterfly. I mean, again, it's a picture of it, and then this painting that she had done. And I thought, wow, that's so sweet. But I really didn't expect that she would follow through. I mean, 52 weeks? Who does that? But literally every Saturday, she would be a little bit ahead of us. Again, she's in Hamburg, Germany. I would open my email and there would be a new flower that she had painted with a definition of what that flower means. And there'd always be a little glass butterfly. And then after the end of the year, after 52 weeks, she auctioned those pictures off and raised money for the 222 Foundation that I started in Taz's honor. So not only did she gift me with this beautiful flower every week for a year, she also, off these flowers and gave the money to the 222 Foundation.
That's amazing. And I was wondering, I know that you haven't been traveling right now, and we might not be able to travel for a while, but could you tell us your favorite place to visit with Taz and where you're planning on going back to as soon as you are able to get back to there?
Oh, I have so many great memories with Taz and traveling. I mean, she traveled many places even without me, when she got old enough. But together we had traveled. We we had gone to Cuba. In fact, that was our last trip together. We'd gone to Cuba, but we went to Machu Picchu together. We had a really wonderful time in Egypt. We, oh my gosh, we rode horseback in front of the Great Pyramids of Giza. We Yeah, so that was a wonderful trip. In Egypt too, it's such a mystical, spiritual place where things are it's real obvious things are much bigger than what we think. So that was a real powerful trip that we shared. We hiked the Cotswold Trail in England. We literally started at Stratford and Avon, and then ended up in Bath, England, and we walked. I mean, we had somebody taking our bags. We just had a little backpack, but we walked. It was like a 5-day journey, and that was a lot of fun. So we went a lot of places. I mean, even when she died at 25, a week into her 25th year, she had been to like 30 or 40 countries already. She had really, traveled a lot. And, being that I'm a travel writer, I was able to take her a lot of places. But again, she got the bug too, and, went and did a lot of things that, went to places that I've never been.
That's amazing. And Anna is saying Machu Picchu, breathtaking place. She's from Peru. She is our
Oh,
Helping Parents Heal en Espanol affiliate leader. And
oh,
so I feel very
wonderful.
grateful to her. She's in Philadelphia now, but she is from there. And E Squared is an incredible book, as Irene is saying. How did you come to write it?
Well, it's funny because again, I think our children and our life paths are. I've been a writer way before I ever had Taz, but had some success. But once, and I was mostly a freelance, like a travel writer, and I wrote articles. Again, I'm a stringer for People magazine, so I'd done a lot of just freelancing kind of things. I used to write for a newspaper. But once Taz was around, I didn't want to travel as much because, hey, I'm a parent. I mean, I want to be here for my kid. So I started writing books, and I feel like Taz really probably helped facilitate that in whatever way, because also when they're babies in the crib, we're getting their energy too. I mean, again, it's just bigger than what we think. We think that we're teaching them. It was very clear to me from the beginning that she was teaching me. In fact, somebody said to me when I was pregnant, they said, here's the best parenting advice I can give you, rather than try to get her to speed up and go at your speed, like, hurry, get your coat on, we got to go. Slow down and move at her speed. Because, kids notice things. They see the little ladybug, they see everything. And so she truly changed my life, from the time she was a babe in the crib, or from the time I was pregnant, from the time she first came to me, completely changed my life. And I feel like she, helped with these books. But as far as E Squared, I wrote it because it's 9 spiritual principles that prove your thoughts create your reality. So a lot of people have heard of this law of attraction kind of thing. And in fact, way back in the Bible, it says, ask and ye shall receive. But I wanted people to see this with their own 2 eyes, that there really is a bigger story. There really is something else going on. So I set up these 9 spiritual principles as experiments, like, here, try this. Here's your hypotheses. Here's how it's going to work. And then report back with the results. And I gave people 48 hours for most of the experiments. One of them, I think, 72 hours. And the thing that was really great about it is that you can talk about it, you can pay lip service to stuff forever, but until you put it in practice in your own life, it's really not valuable to you, once you really learn it. So it was a way to kind of trick people, I guess. Not trick people, but to get people to actually try this. Is it really true that there's this force out there that loves us, that wants to interact with us, that wants to guide us, that wants to bless us? Is that true? And so here's some experiments you can try to see if indeed that is true. And even though Tess, I do have a book. Actually, I did this little book called Recycle This Book, and I did it on recycled grocery bags. And Taz actually helped me do the little drawings on the front of that book. So she participated with me in some of these things. I have a book about like oddities in Kansas curiosities, and Colorado curiosities. And Taz had taken some of the photos for that. And she did her own little travel column, just a little one, so she kind of was, doing her thing too, and kind of facilitating in the family business, I guess you could say, of traveling and writing.
That's wonderful. And I just want to turn to Irene and ask her about those different principles that the experiments that you were talking about and your experience with those experiments. I would love to hear. Was this before or after Carly passed that you read E Squared?
I read it before, but I reread it after. And actually, I have a good friend here where I live. Her name is Susan, who is just a crazy Pam Grout fan. And she did one of the experiments with, I believe it was, she wanted to prove something, take something difficult. And I think it was an orange car. And she thought, I'm going to try to find something that would be difficult. And she'd call me up or text me and say, oh my God, it's there. I found the orange car. So we went back and forth, and, you know, a few of us were practicing with it. It's crazy. It's really amazing when you work on that and put those principles to work.
Yeah, I've had people that really wanted to, well, I'm going to give that FP, field of infinite potentiality, a real challenge. And they'll say, I'm going to see a car that's purple with yellow polka dots. And would you believe they send me pictures of a car that they just happen to see with purple or purple car with yellow polka dots. The stories that I have gotten from people, they usually start with something like, you are never going to believe this. But, you know, so I think what it does is it just opens people's mind to that bigger story. And if anybody needs the bigger story, it's us. It's us parents, you know, these shining light parents. I think we really, really can use the bigger story, you know, and this belief in the bigger thing, as I call it, the bigger thing, you know, whatever it is.
Well, I think that this applies so well to getting signs and validations from our children. We ask and we receive. And it's so important for us to understand that if we do ask our kids to provide these things, they come to us. And I ask Morgan and Chelsea, both of my kids, every day. And I get the most incredible signs. And I don't even like to post about them on Helping Parents Heal because there's so many of them, and I don't want people to feel badly that they're not getting them, but I do want people to understand that they have to remember to ask for them. Candy is saying do post them. I post them, a lot of them, on my own Facebook page. I just am so blown away by the way that they are able to communicate with us. And as I say, I think that this is so similar to what you are doing in these experiments. And I think that it is just so important for all of us to realize that we are masters of our grief. We're masters of this journey, that we're all one too. Every single one of us is linked. The way that you were saying, we are not alone. And more importantly, that our kids are with us every single step of the way. They are not.
You know, and it's also when one of us receives a sign, it's like we've all received that sign.
Yes.
Because we're all part of the group. And I mean, I feel that all of the kids are like my kids also. So.
Well, yeah, I see that. I really wish that we could all give a group hug. I agree. I mean, it's so hard not to be able to have these meetings in person. It was so much more fun when we did have those meetings in person. But Anna is saying, if there is anything that you would look back on now, and let's see, where and who you are now, that what area would you say that you've learned the most and that has impacted you the most now in terms of what you did before to be able to be where you are right now? And how did you get into all of this interest in the afterlife community before all of this happened? I mean, I know that you kind of explained your journey, but it's just so wonderful that you were already at the point that you were at with your journey before Taz passed.
Yeah, it's probably one of those God things, or, you know, it wasn't, because why was I interested in that? I'd lost my grandparents, but, you know, that's kind of normal. I had lost my parent, you know, I hadn't had a lot of experience with death, other than my father was a minister. So, you know, I was aware of funerals and, you know, that kind of thing going on. But I don't know. It's interesting that I did that I was interested in that. And I mean, I think anybody that's interested in spirituality, because spirituality is sort of, well, the spirit, it's the non-material, right? And so I've always been very fascinated with spirituality. I mean, always. And so it fits right in with a search for spirituality or a search for that something bigger, that meaning in life that we all are longing for. So in many ways, the afterlife and our connection there is a real big facilitator in our spiritual journey, or certainly can be a big facilitator in our spiritual journey. So yeah, some of my favorite miracle stories that I've shared have been stories like that. Yeah, people have sent me, like this one woman, she a good friend of her passed. He was a young guy, he was a drummer in a band, and she had asked for a son. I'm trying to remember how this went exactly, and this was long before Taz passed, but he had passed, and it was so anyway. She opens a drawer on this particular day. She's asked for a sign, and there was a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and this drummer friend of hers was a big Malcolm Gladwell sign. It was the exact book. And I'm trying to remember how that went. It was even more miraculous than that. But so there's all kinds of these stories that, yeah, when you're looking for signs, you're going to get a lot of signs from the other side. So yeah, I guess it kind of all fits in together. So yeah.
Well, and I just feel so grateful that you were able to spend time with us this evening. And I hope that everyone reads, well, there are 16 books that Pam has written. E Squared is probably the first one that you should read to kind of understand all of this wonderful information that she's sharing with us. And remember to be asking your kids for signs. Remember that they are all good friends with Taz now, as well as good friends with Carly and good friends with Morgan and Chelsea. And I just feel so grateful that we do have this Zoom platform. A lot of people are talking about the fact that they're grateful for these Zoom meetings. I feel so grateful for the fact that we have so many amazing presenters who have agreed to come and speak to us. And yeah, I have Candy saying, I read your E Squared book in 2013. I have been an LOA student forever. How incredible to be seeing you at this time in this forum. So reading the metabolism book is what Doris is saying. Thank you so much, Pam. And Jenny and Dave are saying, Pam, thank you so much. I will read E Squared. Anna is saying, wonderful. I love this presentation. This is great, Pam. So anyway, we always unmute everyone at the end of our meetings and ask them to say thank you and goodbye. And I am just so grateful to have had you here this evening. Thank you for being a part of Helping Parents Heal, a member of Helping Parents Heal as well. And I am sorry that you are a member, but I am just so grateful that Taz brought you to us. So anyway, have a wonderful evening, everyone, and go ahead and unmute and say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you.